It's Friday morning. It's also a morning where we're having a very important discussion. For the past couple of days, we've been telling you Adolescence has left such an impact, the series on Netflix, on parents, not just in Britain, but all across the globe. It's easily become the most watched program in just a few weeks. There are debates in schools, in households happening around it. So right here on TVC, we are also trying to understand, but also moving beyond the outrage a little bit to get you some answers. I'm Sonam Mehrotra Kapoor. Let's get started. The show that made us uncomfortable, the show that made us think, the show that made us question what Adolescence said without raising its voice. Not a show, but has it been a mirror of what relationships in schools, in families, inside our homes, and with social media are becoming all about? But it's so marvelous because it's not just about the content of the movie and the content of the series, but how beautifully it was crafted. Director Kunal Kohli speaks to us on the craft of Adolescence. It's not just one take, one team, but the vision behind designing such an immersive experience.
Actually, what filmmaking is, because filmmaking is not one person. It's not the director, it's not the actor, it's not the actor's egos, it's not the entourage of the actors which we have in India. It's none of that. It is the coordination between everybody.
Also, since it's Friday, we bring you the entertainment lowdown of the week. Some of our favorite stories coming in from B-Town. And if you have already watched Adolescence, what to do this weekend? Well, we'll give you a quick recap of everything that there is to do and how to sort of guide and plan your weekend ahead. All right, today we are talking about the Netflix show Adolescence. The show delves into the horrifying dangers of toxic masculinity, social media, and violence against women and girls. But that's just scratching the surface. In just weeks of its release, it's already become the most watched across several countries. Why? Because it's raw, it's relentless, for many far too real. Let's not even talk about the pain a parent faces when they watch this show, and it'll give you sleepless nights. It has given me at least several of them. It walks through the teenage anxiety, the peer pressure, the deep silence between parents and their kids, even the couples themselves. It's set in a British school, but it might as well be ours, because this isn't about geography, but how familiar this emotional chaos really feels. The isolation, the missed cues, the adult voices that talk at children, but rarely to them. In India, we've spent years talking about screen time, homework loads, exam stress. But what about trust? What about boundaries? Mental health in classrooms where tech may be banned, but the pressure is always online, isn't it? Today, we are not debating parenting styles. We are confronting a system that's raising children who are seen, not heard. And what kind of world are we really building around them? Who is to blame? Is it the parents? Is it the teachers? Is it the peers? Is it the society? Or is it social media? The answers aren't simple, but today on the program, let's try and hope that we get at least to some of them. To get some of these answers, I'm joined by two of some very, very good voices on this matter. Harpreet Singh Grover, parenting researcher, the curious parent. Everybody knows him. He doesn't need an introduction. He's somebody who helps parents navigate parenting style, schooling, boards, all of it. And I can't wait to hear what Harpreet's take on this is. He's sort of representing the parents group here, what can be done there. And also with us is Pooja Pillai. She's the managing partner and head of school at Toddler's Den in Mumbai. She comes from Teachers College in Columbia University. She's somebody who's not just teaching, but she's somebody who's designing curriculums. So lot of responsibility on on her shoulders to ensure that classrooms of the future are not just tech savvy but inclusive, not isolated in this hyper-connected world. All oxymorons that fit into the future. Let me start by bringing in the parent perspective, and Harpreet, to you first. Let me just hit the nail on the head. After seeing the series, after having watched particularly the last episode, how much of responsibility of what happened to the protagonist here lies with the parents? How much are they to blame?
Blame is a big word. But let me say this. As parents, we are responsible for our child till they become adults. We should have no doubt about that. And when I saw the series, when I ended the series, the overwhelming feeling I had was, look at that family. It's a normal family. The father is going to work, mother is taking care of the house. In the sense of this is how Indian families have been, for good or bad. And they have 2 children and they want to do the best for their children. And that comes out. But none of us are bad parents. But sometimes just having good intentions, particularly in the last 20 years, how the world has evolved, is not good enough. It is not good enough to have good intentions about our child. We need to understand what a child mind is going through. We need to understand what agenda of the world, which is driven through mobile, social media, is doing to our children. And we need to be able to address that. That was my overwhelming feeling, that this is a normal family. Every family is like this. We want our best for our children. But wanting best is not enough. We need to do more.
Yeah, but Harpreet, even doing best perhaps doesn't seem enough, right? Can I quote to you a couple of dialogues that really left an impression with me in episode 4 again, when the entire parent series is going on? The dad says, we did everything. He says, my father beat me up. I never did that to my kid. I am a better father than my dad. He also says that he was right here in this house, under our care, under our roof. How did we not see it? These questions are haunting parents today, which is why I'm trying to get some concrete answers. What could they have done differently?
So now I want to I have the same thing written, what you have wrote. I wrote it last night at 2:30 a.m. when I finished the last episode of the show. And I said, I want to say 2 things. I have met parents who have said, मुझे बचपन में doll नहीं मिली थी. I did not get a doll. So I want my daughter to have all the dolls in the world. It doesn't work that way. This father said, I was not hit, so I will not hit my child. That is not enough, because he learned that if I had to be said no from my parent, I had to be hit. But he did not learn how to say no to his own child. Just agreeing to a child when the child says, okay, I want mobile. And just agreeing to the child saying, hey, how are you? I'm okay. Then he goes up to his room and sits in his room and is alone with actually the world in his hands. And we are not giving him access to the world. We're giving world access to our child. That is not okay. So if we are not hitting our children, that is the bare minimum. We need to learn how to say no to our child to things that can actually harm them, which we have seen in this show. I was actually shocked after seeing the whole show that the show has become so popular. It just means that even despite me spending the last 3 years understanding this, the problem is much deeper. Parents actually do not fully understand what a child below the age of 16, when their brain is not developed, having a mobile in their hands can do to them.
Yeah, I want to talk about a lot of things, and saying no, does that start with saying no to social media? Because that seems to be the one end thing everybody's agreeing upon. There are campaigns now running online in the US, in other countries. Even now, countries like Australia and the rest of them now are saying that there will be no social media access to kids at all, this is something that we need to speak about. Let me bring in Pooja. Pooja, like we had spoken about earlier, there are 2 influence groups when it comes for kids. It's parents, it's school, it's friends and family. You call it what you may. But the same question that I asked Harpreet, when you saw the series, particularly episode 2, which is about school and what's going on over there, how much do you think the responsibility of how he shaped up was the responsibility of the school. And again, I want to quote one of the dialogues there. The principal, while talking about this issue, says, the police came in, but we told them it didn't happen in our premises. Why are they after us? That just as a parent, shook me up. Parents today, where we are paying so much money to ensure that our kid gets the best life possible in schools, how can schools be saying this? How much do you think was the responsibility of the school here?
I think episode 2 was very disturbing as an educator to see the emotional insensitivity of the school towards the situation. The first thing is, looking at all of the teachers in their roles, just their failure to address the children's emotional needs, their mental health needs, given that situation. There was a lot more focus on academics saying, let's get back to that lesson. No sensitivity to the conversations happening with the police officer. The school, noticed or viewed that situation as chaos, thinking that the children are just not behaving well or not showing the traditional discipline that they were expecting. And that was really, really disturbing to see. I think schools today, international schools, any schools for children are, playing a vital role in their lives. And definitely there has to be a lot more of emotional wellness, a lot more of focus on mental health. A connection between the teachers and the students is so important, so that the day this situation happens, children can openly talk about it to their teachers. There seemed to be a feeling of children not being valued or respected, children not being understood for what they are going through at that moment. It was really
I
sad
felt even teachers weren't valued and respected.
Yeah, absolutely.
I felt like that communication had totally broken up. But if I can be honest with you, Pooja, and perhaps difficult to say on camera, a lot of schools today are like that. A lot of schools today which are hard to get. There is a waiting list and जुगाड़ लगाना पड़ता है बच्चे के admission के लिए. They are like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a need for a lot more of emotional wellness education, a lot more of digital literacy education, and open communication, and a culture where children can communicate to their teachers, not just maybe one small counseling cell, but regular communication with teachers and counselors in schools as well to be addressing children's emotional needs. But I think more so there has to be a restriction on the usage of phones in school. I think that was one of the things in episode 2. Children using their phones and teachers getting angry about that. I think phones are a huge distraction during school hours, and that was one of the important takeaways.
You say during school hours. Are you saying post that? Let's actually address that question. I wanted to come, and in our interaction with this, we were speaking to smartphone-free childhood. It's a campaign that's running world over. And we sort of interacted with them, and I exchanged some notes, and they did say that while they have no presence in India, they're getting some invaluable data and talking to parliamentarians, politicians, policymakers across the globe to make it happen. Is that the only solution that we're getting to? Harpreet, to you first.
We can wait for countries to change their laws, and by the time our children will be grown up. That is what is going to happen. Okay? Yours, mine, our children are going to grow up. So maybe for the next generation, that is the solution. But for this generation, I think phones are much more than a distraction. I think the problem is that we see phones only as a distraction. Distraction is like scratching the surface. They are not distraction. They are much, much, much deeper than that. I want to take an example, a real example of a father and a 13-year-old daughter, where the father would not let the 13-year-old go to the market by herself. Because it is not physically safe. Tuition jana hai to saath mein I will send a nanny, or a driver will drive her. But the same father will give her a smartphone. So we are worried about somehow the physical safety of our children, but we are not worried about the mental safety of our children. Like how can that be? And even in schools, throwing money is not a solution. We can't be that, okay, I give the school 10 lakh rupees a year, and now I can go do my job and be busy and let the school take care of this. Money would not solve it. Children need time from the parent.
तो हरप्रीत solutions बात करते हैं फिर.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
हाँ solutions बात करते हैं और हम ये समझने की कोशिश करते हैं क्या स्मार्टफोन फ्री चाइल्डहुड पॉसिबल है इंडिया में?
Smartphone free. Okay, so मैंने actually कुछ लिखा है and I wrote it just after I finished the episode. I will come to it, but I want to come. Actually, let me. I actually met parents, husband, wife, and their daughter. Okay, 13-year-old daughter again, 15-year-old. Sorry. Okay, and they came. They met me in the morning in the through a reference, and they said, our child is just on her mobile. What do we do? And वो उसको देख के फैशन कर रही है, शी इज जस्ट वरीड अबाउट व्हाट क्लोथ्स शी विल वेयर, and we are very worried, her 10th is approaching, what will happen. And I said, and I asked the child, what do you think about it? And she said, they're right, I am attracted to the mobile and I am using it and I'm getting impacted by it. And you know what I said to the family? I said, you are the most beautiful family there can be, and you are wonderful because your child is sitting here with you. She's admitting the mobile actually is impacting her. She's willing to talk to you. You've all come on a Saturday morning. We are sitting in the grass and talking about it. This is wonderful.
You
For
want
most
what I
families,
said.
this
Yeah.
stage doesn't come.
Yeah.
So if we want to prevent anything of this happening, first we need to have a connection with our child. Yeah. Without that connection, which is going missing because of multiple reasons, nothing we do with our child will work. Okay, and I want to now read what I wrote after the show as a solutions and lessons from adolescence. And I wrote, I will not let my child below the age of 16 have a personal smartphone. I will not be bullied by my own guilt when my child says everyone has it. I will not think to myself, oh, I'm giving it for studying. If my child feels left out of groups because he's unable to chat with his friends after school, I will explain to my child why that is okay. If my child is quiet, I will not think of that as okay. I will not think kids nowadays are like that only. I will find time for my child, time to connect, time to chat. I don't want a child who's good at what I want them to be good at. Boxing, football, father points it out. I will see what my child enjoys doing, like drawing. I will not work with an imaginary child, I will work with my real child. I am responsible for my child, I love my child.
Oh my God, Harpreet, that's like a children's Bible. Can you please send it to me? I want to frame it up, put it on my vision board, and perhaps circulate it around as well. That's really summing it up very, very well. Thank you so much. But talking about smartphones, I have to get Pooja's perspective here because Pooja, you work with international boards, and the worry I have is that even, in a scenario, if somebody listening to Harpreet right now is nodding their head and saying, "सही बात बोल रहे हैं, ऐसा ही करना चाहिए," लेकिन स्कूल में तो हम सारा पढ़ाई ऑनलाइन करते हैं. अब तो ओपन बुक एग्जाम्स होते हैं, that internet is at your disposal, chat GPT is at your disposal, but you have to apply your brains. That's what we are telling our kids to do. So in a scenario like that, is it even possible to have an internet-free childhood?
I think schools that do provide the internet and devices to children have a big responsibility to teach children to use those responsibly, to ensure that the negative impacts of social media don't come on to these children, for sure. I think schools really need to restrict smartphone usage. It is possible because within the school hours, there is, you can restrict them to be using certain apps, certain websites, completely maybe dropping off their smartphones at the door when they enter school and just picking it up at exit time when they leave school, to ensure that that is not a distraction in any way during school hours. But beyond that, it's also about the psychological education for children, for what happens beyond school hours in terms of cyberbullying, the impacts of social media on children, the impacts of their words, their voices on social media, on their friends, every action that they do on social media, the impact of that on their own mental health, their self-esteem, their body image, their self-image. So this kind of education is also really important in schools. Besides that would be parent education. I think schools have the responsibility to help parents in engaging better with their students, like Harpreet said, in connecting with their students, teaching parents how to set boundaries with their students so that schools and parents can work hand in hand, saying no, whether we say that, I think I agree too that, children should not be allowed to use a smartphone up to the age of 16. So, if schools and parents work together to restrict social media, to restrict smartphones, for parents to understand that it's okay to have boundaries. Schools supporting parents in understanding their children, their online behavior.
But you
I think
spoke about something very critical, body image, and to that I have a couple of questions. When we floated this issue, so many questions have come in, but we'll flash them all on the screen, and we'll try and get Harpreet to actually answer all of them offline as well. But for now, let me pick up a couple of them. There is Murtaza who says, what's the best way to approach conversations about puberty and body image with kids? Harpreet, is there a formula?
Depends on the age of the child. But do approach and do talk to the child. There is a high chance if the child doesn't learn from you, they will learn from internet, and that is not good. So approach the child. It is not about what is the right way to do it. The point is to do it.
Right. The other question comes from Visha Chauhan. She says, how can parents open up meaningful conversations with adolescents who are naturally withdrawn?
There is nothing like naturally withdrawn. All of us want to survive. All of us are born. We are social animals. There are no naturally withdrawn children. Let me put it, genetically, it is possible. Some people have less tendency to interact. There was a person who actually at the age of 24 parked his car and vanished from the world for 37 years, only to be discovered 37 years later because he didn't want to make social contact. But those are aberrations. Find time to connect with a child. I want to take a simple example, and this my wife told me after 6 years of marriage. She said, "तुम मेरे से बात नहीं करते." I said, "मैं office से घर आता हूँ, I come home, and then you don't." I told her, "You don't talk." And she said, "Can you please give me time? Can you be in the same room for 15 minutes? Just spend 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I will talk." So I'm saying, find time to connect with your child, with your partner.
Yeah.
That is important.
Yeah, there are so many more questions on EdTech, etc. I think what we're going to do is we're going to send all these questions to our panelists and have them answer a couple of them online as well so people can have a wider approach. But thank you both for joining us. The conversation has only started. There is no way in which we can sort of conclude this just yet, but so thankful to cinema and art to having made this possible for us to keep it in the forefront to ensure that all of us come out and address this. Thank you both, Harpreet and Pooja, for joining us today.
No, thank you for doing it.
All right, with that, we're going to slip into a break, but we're not done with the story. The entire immersive experience of this movie deserves another conversation, and we're right back for that.
Emily.
Donald Trump says China could get a discount on tariffs if it agrees to a US takeover of TikTok. He floated the idea in comments Wednesday.
Maybe I'll give him a little reduction in tariffs or something to get it done, because every point in tariff is worth more money than TikTok.
TikTok parent firm ByteDance has an April 5th deadline to find a non-Chinese buyer for the short video app. Otherwise, it will face a US ban over national security concerns. That had been due to kick in just before Trump took office, but the new president delayed enforcement until April. With some 170 million users in the US, TikTok's fate is a big concern for many Americans. But getting Beijing's approval for any deal has always looked like a sticking point. Trump has repeatedly used tariffs as a bargaining chip and has imposed a new 20% levy on Chinese exports since returning to power. Now he thinks China might find a discount offer tempting.
Sounds like something I'd do.
Vice President J.D. Vance has said he expects the general terms of an agreement to be in place by April 5th. There was no immediate comment on Trump's incentive offer from TikTok.
Another round of tariffs from President Trump before the big one due on April the 2nd. Trump has announced now a 25% tariff on all car imports into the US that he said will go into effect on April the 2nd and that he would begin to start charging the following day. These tariffs would be on top of the tariffs already in place and already announced. the US administration believes that this tax on automobiles will bring in at least $100 billion of new revenue every year. And Trump has said these taxes on automobiles will be permanent. To follow will be tax benefit offers to American buyers of cars built in the US. But this is not going to be a simple and straight tariff. A lot of the cars imported into the US come from Canada and Mexico, and these have components made in the US. And that, he said, will be proportionally factored into the 25% tariff. The tariffs will be reduced in proportion to the value of an imported car's American-built components. This opens up a nightmare world of certification and accounting. On the other hand, to add to this, the tariff will apply to non-American components of cars built in the US. This would then be a decision particularly hard to implement. It is not clear who will police this, who will carry out inspection and certification of every car or even every lot of cars along these lines, and what the cost of all this would add up to. The automakers most severely hit will be from Mexico, where the US imported about 3 million cars last year, worth about $78.5 billion. Then Japan and South Korea with about 1.5 million cars each sent to the US, Canada with 1 million, Germany with 500,000, and as expected, the German cars have been on average the costliest. These 500,000 were worth about $25 billion. Exporters in all of these countries could now see a significant fall in sales, and consumers in the US a significant rise in the price of cars, which could lead to far reduced sales, which would hardly help the US economy. The silver lining on Wednesday was the announcement by Trump that come April the 2nd, he is inclined to be lenient with many countries, and more lenient than he thinks they have been with the US. And many no doubt hope that will include India.
Donald Trump says China could get a discount on tariffs if it agrees to a US takeover of TikTok. He floated the idea in comments Wednesday.
Maybe I'll give them a little reduction in tariffs or something to get it done, because every point in tariff is worth more money than TikTok.
TikTok parent firm ByteDance has an April 5th deadline to find a non-Chinese buyer for the short video app. Otherwise, it will face a US ban over national security concerns. That had been due to kick in just before Trump took office, but the new president delayed enforcement until April. With some 170 million users in the US, TikTok's fate is a big concern for many Americans. But getting Beijing's approval for any deal has always looked like a sticking point. Trump has repeatedly used tariffs as a bargaining chip, and has imposed a new 20% levy on Chinese exports since returning to power. Now he thinks China might find a discount offer tempting.
Sounds like something I'd do.
Vice President J.D. Vance has said he expects the general terms of an agreement to be in place by April 5th. There was no immediate comment on Trump's incentive offer from TikTok.
Another round of tariffs from President Trump before the big one due on April the 2nd. Trump has
Welcome back. We are not done with the Adolescence story just yet. We thought we should make you watch this little snippet of CNN's Christiane Amanpour speaking with the actor and co-writer Stephen Graham, the father in the series about adolescence. This is his take.
So I don't know. This is pretty much quite a recent, addition to Netflix, but it's already number one over this past week in 71 countries, more than 70 countries around the world. Did you expect this kind of reaction when you started into this?
No, of course not. When we made it, it's very colloquial. It's set in a little town up north in England. So we made it with love, honesty, integrity, and respect. And what seems to have happened, it's kind of like a stone. and you throw the stone into a pond, and this ripple effect has been huge, really. Do you know what I mean? But we never meant it to have this impact. We just wanted to tell a truthful and honest story that we came up with.
Okay, so it is a really interesting, obviously, and it's getting so much acclaim, and we're going to go into the how it was filmed. But first I want to ask you, I said it's about toxic masculinity. How would you describe what it is? It's about more than that, right? What would you say you're trying to explore in these 4 episodes?
Basically, I read an article in the paper a good few years ago, and then a couple of months later there was a piece on the news, on the telly, and it was about, there was 2 young boys who'd stabbed these young girls to death, and they were at opposite ends of the country. And it just made me really, if I'm completely honest with you, it really hurt my heart. And it made me wonder why they would do something like this, and what's kind of happened within our society where this thing in Britain has become kind of a regular occurrence. And then, you know that beautiful saying, like your article just before then, your piece, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Well, what I thought we could look at, is maybe we're all slightly accountable in some way, shape or form. Do you know what I mean? And we look at it and we analyse it from a different perspective. So maybe it's down to parenting. Maybe it's down to, the school system, the government, the community, and the social structure which the child's raised. But on top of that, when me and you were kids, we didn't have the internet. But now the internet is a huge influence on our children. And in many cases, it's parenting our children just as much as we are, and it's educating our children just as much, if not more, than our schools are.
So it's really traumatic. Your dad, obviously, we can hear you off screen telling him to say that he understands. He's a child, he's been accused of a murder, but you then have him sort of pop out of bed and he's wet himself. I mean, there's so much that's telling us the humanity and the madness of what's happening in this moment. Was it traumatic for you when you shot it? I mean, telling this story, how did you decide to show it like this?
We always knew that the format we would use would be in the one shot. And what that kind of does was that enables us to grab the audience straight away. So I knew in my head when I was setting up the idea, when I was talking to Jack, who's our fantastic writer, Jack Thorne, when I wanted us to grab the audience's attention straight away. I'm slightly obsessed with 24 Hours in Police Custody as well, which is, a documentary series at home. And kind of the format, how that we get someone and we arrest them and then we see how the police bring them to trial. And within the concept of this, straight away, I wanted the audience not to think that Jamie was capable of such a horrendous act. And within the format that we use, what we're capable of doing then is taking the audience with the family. So the great thing about this specific style, which our amazing director of photography, Matt Lewis, kind of come up with and created with Phil, the director as well. You've got the audience straight away.
And they did get the audience straight away. But let's talk about that creative side of the show as well. Shot in a single take, it's got filmmakers across the world stunned. In India, though, it sparked something else, frustration. From Anurag Kashyap to independent directors, many say OTT platforms, especially Netflix India, would never back something like this. It's too bold, it's too niche, too massy enough. But when was the last time we trusted an audience to stay with silence or tension or camera that does not cut for 45 minutes straight? Now, we have with us now on the program Indian filmmaker Kunal Kohli joining us to sort of answer some of those questions. Hi, good morning, Kunal.
Hi, Sonal, and a very good morning to you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Lovely. So, let me start with some opening thoughts. I'm sure you've seen it by now. What did you think?
Yes, I have watched Adolescence. In fact, I started watching it before the hype started around the show. And I was 7-8 minutes into it and I suddenly realized that, wait a minute, there's no cut. And the first shot is just going on. I rewound it and then I started watching it again and I'm like, wait a minute, where's the cut? Then I said, wait, let me check. Is this really one shot? And then I Googled and ChatGPT. And then I found out that the entire episode is going to be one shot. And I was like, oh my God, this is something special. and then I was just hooked watching it. Because sometimes when you're watching something, you sort of check a message, you get up, get some water, whatever. But this time I was just completely hooked on.
Yeah. That's what it does. It just grips you, it sucks you into the narrative, right? And that's really the power of good storytelling. But were you inspired? Were you intimidated? Were you just envy like some of your colleagues are feeling right now?
Well, not envy. I have always been a fan of cinema like this and shots like this. There have been quite a few Hindi film songs that have been shot like this. Very few. The one that immediately comes to mind is Roop Tera Mastana. The entire shot, the entire song is in one shot. And there are a lot of filmmakers who used to take very, very long shots in their songs. Vijay Anand was a master in that. He loved taking extremely long shots. Manoj Kumar. Both of them, sometimes you see their choreography, you're like, where did the camera start? Where did it go? How did it happen? What did they do? I have even tried that in a couple of my films. There's a song in Mujhse Dosti Karoge where there's a medley. It's a 8.5, 9-minute medley. In that, we covered like 3-4 songs in one long take, one long shot. It was about, I think, 2.5 minutes or 3.5 minutes, that one shot. And at the end of that shot, the camera fell into the water. And the amazing thing is, we used that take where the camera fell into the water. And in the rushes, you could see the camera going like this, and then poof, then it went off because that was film stock. And miraculously, the film got saved. And we put that take in the film. So that was a 3.5-minute shot. Well, nothing compared to 58 minutes. But yes, this is something as filmmakers we love doing. We love the challenge. And I think that's what keeps us going.
Yeah. I think the beauty of Adolescence has been that good storytelling came with great production as well. So if Kunal Kohli, who's not just a filmmaker, also a parent, if he had to design his own Adolescence, if you had to direct it, what would that look like?
A Kunal Kohli version of Adolescence would definitely have a song thrown in. Definitely. I would love to choreograph a full song in one shot and a scene before that and a scene after that. I think it would just be so exciting. I have, in a lot of my films, taken really, really long shots, and actors have loved the challenge. The DOPs, the director of photography, have loved the challenge. Everybody. It's just such a, there's such a sense of accomplishment. And it's not just the technical wizardry of it that excites everybody. It is the concentration, the focus, the thing of doing something with that energy and that consistency and not relying on anything. There's no crutches. There's nothing like, okay, we'll check this in the edit or we'll play with this in the edit. You can't do anything about it. The edit's not going to save you. The background music's not going to save you. Nothing's going to save you. That shot has to work for its entire duration. That's the magic of it. And that's why, as filmmakers, we love it. And a Kunal Kohli version of it will definitely have romantic scenes and a song thrown in. And then post the song, even what happened.
Nice. Can't wait for that to happen now. But Kunal, put on your director's hat for a second and tell us that apart from the single take visual experiment, as many are calling it, what exactly stuck to you about Adolescence in the way it's been made?
So just getting a little technical, in this what they've done is the camera was on a drone. A drone, for people who don't know, is like a mini helicopter. So the camera is hooked onto it. From there, it was removed, and then it was held by two people in a gimbal, and then they walked all over. So that's what all went into. And I think that is so interesting. So there's a lot of planning. And don't forget, when you're talking about a 58-minute long shot or a 60-minute long shot, when something goes wrong in the 56th minute, you got to start all over again.
Yes.
There's, because you need it to be perfect.
Yeah.
So I think so what really struck me, performances, the technical aspects of it, the coordination with everybody, that's like really, the rehearsals must have been just really, really difficult, the timing, the precision, everything. This is actually what filmmaking is, because filmmaking is not one person. It's not the director, it's not the actor, it's not the actor's egos, it's not the entourage of the actors, which we have in India. It's none of that. It is the coordination between everybody. It is the sound man, the light man, the camera team, the sound team, the direction team, the production team. Everybody working in sync makes a good product. And that's what Adolescence is shown. And that's why it's being spoken about all over.
I think you're saying when the team is one, it breathes together and reads together. And I was reading that they actually did only 2 takes in a day. That's how much it took out of them to even get through 1 take. And that's how magic is created and unfolded on screen. But Kunal, directors in India have openly said that Netflix India would never greenlight something like Adolescence in India, in this country, in the environment. Do you agree with that?
Well, it's a challenge to get anything approved and greenlit in the Indian OTT environment. Whoever it is, I won't take names because I have to work with all of them and get shows or films approved from all of them and greenlit from all of them. But it is such a challenge. And it's just, creativity is one thing. Getting it approved is first another. And who knows what's going to work, first of all. And then secondly, you have people judging your written work who don't know what it's going to look like when you finally made it. And who are not even sitting down across you and saying, okay, you know what, just show me what you're saying. And then you show it to them, and then whether they're visualizing it the way you're visualizing it, you don't know. So, it's a challenge to, get anything approved in the OTT environment in India today. It's a really, really challenging task.
Oh, that's saying something. But where do you think the disconnect lies then? Platforms not backing Indian creators enough, or creators not pushing the envelope hard enough? Who is it?
That's a good question. But I think it's not about the creators not backing, the creators not pushing the envelope enough, because, when you're told, give me something like this, then where's the creativity? Whenever something is like something, or you know what, on our platform, this works beautifully, so let's do more of this. That's not how new products come out. That's not how new concepts come out. That's not how new ideas come out. New ideas come up when you tell people that just give me anything. Give me something different. Engage me. And you try something. You try a little bit of this, you try a little bit of that, and you try something that connects with people and that will get people hooked on. If Adolescence was offered to anyone from the Indian OTTs, I'm not sure they would have taken it, because they would have said, "Arey, why you want to do this, yaar? Kyun aise karna hai? Nahi, yaar, we have to have some control in the edit. Some control in the edit."
I hear you. Okay, so, so much talk is going on about Adolescence being this emotionally raw, technically ambitious project. What's the closest perhaps we've come to, say, in India in your experience?
Well, I think, we have done incredible stuff which has not been noticed in the past. The cameras that some of the masters and the past filmmakers used, they were these gigantic Mitchell cameras, and in that they would take shots which had so much movement and so much action. They had no help and support of technology, and they still did that, and they still made those films. Today we have help and support of technology, so these things are easier. But I think without all that, to do the cinema that they made, whether it was Vijay Anand or a Raj Kapoor or a Guru Dutt, is just incredible. Manoj Kumar, the kind of shots that they took was just at another level. And I think that's that dedication and passion has to come from everybody. There's a song in a Vijay Anand film, Tere Mere Sapne Ab Ek Rang Hai. The entire song was shot over 5-6 days only at sunset. So every day, during the day, they would shoot something else. Then from 4 o'clock, they'd start rehearsing. And just before sunset, they'd start taking the shot. And they'd just get one shot in a day. and that song also had really long shots. And sometimes the entire music piece and one full antara and mukhra would go into one shot, and that was one day's work, because then it would get too dark, and the next day start all over again before sunset. So that's that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's the beauty of cinema like that, where you experiment and play.
But talking about experiment and play, Kunal, there is a lot happening in the filmmaking or cinema making experience in the country, both OTT and big screen as well, right? Many platforms say they suffer from the subscription anxiety. So a lot of cinema, big screen cinema also now choosing mass appeal over any memorable storytelling. Is that where we are going? Or do you think when stuff like Adolescence comes about, it sparks something, it sparks a conversation, just might be a start of something new?
Honestly, I don't think it's subscription anxiety. I think it's just anxiety, and I think the anxiety comes from not trying different filmmakers, not trying new filmmakers, not trying different things with different filmmakers. They have a group of filmmakers and they're very happy with them. They make one project for them, it does well, great. They'll continue with that person or that company, and they'll give that company and that person 20 shows to. Not experimenting with others. And I think they need to experiment a little more, try new, different concepts, and just get in different voices. That's what the OTT is meant for.
Interesting you say that. I thought OTT was actually experimenting with a lot of new age writers coming in from tier 2, tier 1 cities as well. So, which is interesting to see what you're saying. Okay, but final thoughts, Kunal, as we wrap up, to something to leave our viewers with, something that your director's eye noticed that all of us might have missed during viewing of Adolescence.
Well, I think Adolescence is, yes, a technical and a performance marvel, because the way people have performed is really wonderful. But don't put us down. Don't think we can't do it. We've been doing it without technology for a very long time. Like I said, songs like Roop Tera Mastana, Manoj Kumar, Vijay, I mean, they all have done songs with long takes and with far more primitive technology than what Adolescence has. So while we are discussing this and saying how wonderful it is, we have also in our cinema 40 years back, 50 years back, 60 years back, done stuff like this without taking away from the Adolescence team, which I think the whole world is talking about as how we. So yeah, this is cinema, this is the OTT, this is the age of doing things. There's a Hindi film which is coming out now recently, which I'm told is a fully AI made film, completely made on AI. So we're all doing things. Everyone is doing things. And I think that's the beauty of the times we're living in, that everyone's trying different things.
All right, Kunal, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with doing something that's out of the box for yourself.
Wonderful talking to you, Sonal. Thank you for having me.
All right, with all that chat about OTT and cinema, it's time to take you through our entertainment lowdown of the week. This is what Shosha has put in together for you. Take a look.
Hello there. Let's take a quick look at the week that was. Riya Chakraborty has been given a clean chit by the CBI in the Sushant Singh Rajput death case, following which Soni Razdan, Diya Mirza, Pooja Bhatt and Fatima Sana Sheikh criticized the witch hunt that Riya was subjected to. In its final report submitted on March 22, 2025, the CBI confirmed that there was no foul play in Sushant's death, ruling it a suicide. The actor was found dead at his Mumbai residence on June 14, 2020. Riya, who was dating Sushant at that time, faced serious allegations from his family, like accusations of financial fraud and mental harassment. Additionally, she was implicated in a drug-related case, spending nearly a month in custody. Israeli settlers allegedly assaulted Hamdan Balal, a Palestinian co-director of the Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land, before he was detained by the Israeli military in the village of Susia. Basel Adra, another co-director of No Other Land, said, "We came back from the Oscars and every day since there is an attack on us. This might be their revenge on us for making the movie. It feels like a punishment. At the Oscars, the makers made headlines as they urged serious action to be taken to stop injustice and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Back home, Imtiaz Ali expressed shock over Hamdan's arrest. Kanye West is back in the headlines with explosive allegations against ex-wife Kim Kardashian, calling her a sex trafficker. In a now deleted post on X, he also targeted Kris Jenner, claiming she played a pivotal role in the infamous Kim-Kanye sex tape leak. Taking things a step further, Kanye went on to label the entire Kardashian family as sex workers, adding that they sex traffic all of the black children they strategically produce. These bombshell allegations came shortly after Kanye passionately called for the release of disgraced record producer Sean Diddy Combs, who is under arrest for sexual trafficking charges. Hansal Mehta and Kangana Ranaut have locked horns after the former extended his support to stand-up comic Kunal Kamra, who is facing criticism for his jokes on Shiv Sena chief and Maharashtra Deputy CM Eknath Shinde. Kangana was quick to respond to Hansal's post on X when he was asked why he kept quiet when Kangana's office was demolished by the BMC in 2020. She reacted saying that his insecurity and mediocrity has made him bitter and stupid. Slamming her Simran director further, she called his work third class and atrocious. Replying to her, Hansal wrote, "Get well soon." A video of Neha Kakkar breaking down during the Melbourne concert has gone viral. The singer, who arrived 3 hours late, apologized profusely to the crowd, but her emotional breakdown did not go well with everyone. Many audience members were clearly frustrated as they angrily hurled "Go back" and called her out for her fake tears. A dancer named Aishwarya Ashokan, who performed with Neha at her Sydney show, later came out in support of Neha and urged bullies to not attack the singer. While Neha has not addressed the episode yet, her brother Tony Kakkar defended her on Instagram, calling her a queen. That's all for this week. See you soon.
Donald Trump says China could get a discount on tariffs if it agrees to a US takeover of TikTok. He floated the idea in comments Wednesday.
Maybe I'll give them a little reduction in tariffs or something to get it done, because every point in tariff is worth more money than TikTok.
TikTok parent firm ByteDance has an April 5th deadline to find a non-Chinese buyer for the short video app. Otherwise, it will face a US ban over national security concerns. That had been due to kick in just before Trump took office, but the new president delayed enforcement until April. With some 170 million users in the US, TikTok's fate is a big concern for many Americans. But getting Beijing's approval for any deal has always looked like a sticking point. Trump has repeatedly used tariffs as a bargaining chip, and has imposed a new 20% levy on Chinese exports since returning to power. Now he thinks China might find a discount offer tempting.
Sounds like something I'd do.
Vice President J.D. Vance has said he expects the general terms of an agreement to be in place by April 5th. There was no immediate comment on Trump's incentive offer from TikTok.
Another round of tariffs from President Trump before the big one due on April the 2nd. Trump has announced now a 25% tariff on all car imports into the US that he said will go into effect on April the 2nd, and that he would begin to start charging the following day. These tariffs would be on top of the tariffs already in place and already announced. The US administration believes that this tax on automobiles will bring in at least $100 billion of new revenue every year, and Trump has said these taxes on automobiles will be permanent. To follow will be tax benefit offers to American buyers of cars built in the US. But this is not going to be a simple and straight tariff. A lot of the cars imported into the US come from Canada and Mexico, and these have components made in the US. And that, he said, will be proportionally
factored into the 25% tariff. The tariffs will be reduced in proportion to the value of an imported car's American built